Good day. This is my second recording here today. It seems that when I changed screen, it backed me out last time. That's odd because I've had this on live before and opened the screen, changed the screen, and came back, and the video feed was still there for me to post. But this time, I guess the monitors, the trolls that are watching, didn't like what I have to say because it's the truth. I guess I will be more in depth this time because that's how it always is. If I do something well one time and it gets canceled by the people trying to cancel our culture, I come back again and I make it a little bit better. Today is July the 1st, 2024, Common Era. Epoch, E-P-O-C, era spelled E-R-A. I am not saying the word E-R-R-O-R. It is 2024 Common Era, E-R-A/epoch. Hey, Geopec, you sent me a request to be in my video live. Now, I'm going to talk for a little while first because I want to get this out here first before I add anybody live or so. I'm also videoing it because I think the trolls that might be out there could stop it. I am shadow banned, it seems. Censored. The wrong type of censored. It seems that I am being CEN. SORSHIP, censored that way, which means the government, the liberals, are trying to stop me from talking, trying to make it illegal for people that look like me to speak. So, I'm going to go on like this. In my life, I was kidnapped at a young age, taken from my family, brought back to my family. I was kidnapped again. There was a custody hearing in Old York, now called Toronto. At this time, when the custody hearing was, pretty sure the place in the United States called New York City was called New Amsterdam and not New York City. In my memory, I can remember it being like Victorian Elizabethan era. People used to dress like that way. There wasn't a lot of vehicles around here. There wasn't really much of anything. There was a custody case at Old City Hall. Me and a bunch of toddlers, 1973, 1974 was the latest this custody case could have been. So the oldest I could have been at the time was 6 years old. Me and a bunch of toddlers were given custody to a sexual predator that's related to the Immortal sex cult and works for the Nazis. A dark-skinned man, much darker than me, that was 5'11" back then. And the only way he got custody of us is because some people that were already trapped by him started singing "Yes, Jesus Loves Me" in English. And then because of that singing in English, I switched my mind and said, okay, they're the people I know. But that court case was being done in Greek. Up until 1991 Common Era, ERA/epoch, E-P-O-C, time period, the official language of the Olympics was Greek. Up until 1985, the official language of trade across the ocean was Greek. And across the Pacific was Mandarin. A lot of people still say, if you're into international business, you should learn Mandarin. I can remember news articles on it in the 80s and the 90s. Both Newsweek, Times Magazine, BBC, saying China's one of the languages to learn for the future. So, Mandarin. If you had asked me 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, if I ever studied Greek or Mandarin, I would be like, my dad spoke Greek, but I didn't study it like to that level. But it seems that I was studying Greek and Mandarin before I was forced to study French and English in the late 70s. My memories of my parents before going to school in the late 70s to be in this English world are in indigenous American languages, Old Norse, Greek, as well as Creole. So there was at least 5 languages in my head before English was forced on. I can remember my mom saying English was not a good idea. Or so. So now we are in the English world, speaking here. I know from personal experience that Canada, the official language would not have been English and French for everybody. Canada would have been more like India, where they have the indigenous languages as official and English as well as official, because it's a trade language used across the ocean. English that we speak here in Canada, I remember being taught in class, is a language created for politics. It's called personal or political relation English, or I can't remember the exact term, this is a long time ago. But English is basically a language used for the Parliament of the British. The British royals, even themselves, didn't speak this English we're speaking today. They spoke more Greek in the palace, and a lot of people don't realize that. Even the movie The King's Speech, that's showing the first time that king spoke English officially as a speech. Before those years, it was Greek officially, or Latin. So now let's get back to the issue at hand that I had made the post for and had seemed like disappeared on me. This last weekend in Toronto, there was the Pride Parade. Gay Pride, as they say. I went to the first one, 1991. Or so, I think it was 1990, 1991. I went to the first one. Back then, the year after that, after I went to the first one, we are all talking about some issue. And it came up that gay, in our language, Ojibwe, means to and also or you, depending on the statement. Gay, Sanskrit, which is the proper term when you say gay in English, like gaiety, the Christmas songs, means happy. No sexual or erotic connotation at all. No sexual or erotic connotation at all. Gay, from Vietnamese, in the Vietnamese language, in the 70s, when the Vietnam armed conflict ended, also called Second Indochina ended, meant coronavirus. I actually have a post on it on my page, because I'd actually found the word well before 2019 on Microsoft Translator, and at the time it was still translated from English to Vietnamese, coming back as G, A with the long line over it for a long A, Y for coronavirus. So as I was saying earlier in my post that didn't get posted, when a lot of servicemen returned to North America the late 70s, and that in San Francisco, a lot of them brought back wives from, some of them brought back children from the Asia, Far East Asia. Some brought back wives and got married. They were going around saying, do you have the gay virus? The gay virus. And that meant coronavirus or common cold. Now shifting towards the early 80s, you have Dr. Fauci trying to mandate an injection for the coronavirus at that time. And the United States Armed Forces came out with the term, don't ask, don't tell, if you have the gay virus, which is not a sexually transmitted disease. It is a common cold. You could get it from someone sneezes on you healthy, well enough or so. But from my knowledge, but from what I remember from the mid 80s up into the 90s, there was a lot of vets that I hung around with. Like I was in cadets in my young age, and there was vets that used to say, yeah, we got that virus from Vietnam. We got the virus. We got to keep the window open if you're in the car or whatever. So there's always some airflow, or always in a, what's it called, convertible. You know, some of them always had convertibles. Back then in the 70s, if people could remember, I'm 56 years old. People that are older than me, if you all remember and go for your minds, think about the 70s. Some of those restaurants, a lot of those restaurants had partitions. A lot of cars were convertibles. A lot of vehicles were open air. Like to me, in my mind, it went from 1930s vehicles to 1970s vehicles within a 5-year period. Some people call that the Mandela effect now. Some people call that time compression. But back to the issue at hand, the gay pride. Gay, in our language, means your pride. So the first year, I went down with my bunch of friends. One guy that is lost, and the rest of them were mostly East Indian and West Indian. One, Ariel, he was Filipino. Jason is Portuguese, West Indian descent from Guyana. Carlos Ram Prasad, he's Indian subcontinent. Alvin Rezel, he's from Singapore, and a few others. And even this one guy, I think, from England or whatever. We all went down. I was all thinking, yeah, it's your pride, your heritage. And I have a recent memory I just called this week. The person that I think is my possible twin sister was saying, no, it's not a heritage parade. It's only guys. Only guys. You mean only guys, or your pride? You like the Ojibwe word. This is Ojibwe land, right? Your pride, not guys' pride, right? So we all went down there, us males, guys and gals, if that's English, right? And some of us were offended. Some of us were offended. And we never went back to that parade. Actually, good friends of mine, we always went north, and where my Uncle Brian told me that people were going to want to cut off my freaking thing. And it's been going on since I was a toddler or whatever. So, back to when I was a toddler. Because I did sit down about the last broadcast I tried to do, and I don't know if people saw it, but I sat down about this time. Back to when I was a toddler. In 1974, Common Era was the first transvestite surgery done to a person that I know about. It was done on a person that was indigenous American, mixed. He went to residential school, he was bullied, he was sexually assaulted, and I think it was in his 20s or 30s, he had the first transvestite surgery that I know about. It was done by a doctor that was supposedly an ex-Nazi. You have to confirm this. He was a German doctor. I think he was an ex-Nazi as well. I'm not 100% sure about that one, but the first transvestite surgery on an mixed indigenous American that I know about, 1974. My grandfather, which died in 1982, made sure to educate all us children, boys and girls, about this fear of many indigenous Americans. That there are people going through America cutting off our genitalia or bullying us in a way to make us question how we are born naturally. So I'll get how the issue came here. First of all, in America, this is not practiced in America. There is no practice I know of in any American culture that cuts off people's genitalia. I do know Mayans, traditionally, which my brother witnessed and could have traumatized him, there is a ceremony where we take a fish bone and we pull it through the scrotum. And the reason that's done, in modern terms, medically, if you think about it, masturbation wasn't a big thing to us ancients in America. That was done to alleviate or take out the excess sperm and pus and other things that build up in the scrotum over time. That is done in a ceremony, and it is burnt with a piece of paper at the end. That was done before, in front of my brother, when he was not at the age to do it, when I was at the age to do it. And the memory came back to me in the last year, and it didn't go well for me. So, we don't do that anymore. We haven't done that ceremony since the 80s. I still have my scrotum, I still have my penis. It's right there. Still didn't get it cut off. Like Uncle Brian says, be careful. Some people want to cut your stuff off since the 70s. So, it is unscientific to castrate males and females. Unless it is just unscientific. The only reason it was done in the past, in Asia, in Africa, eunuchs, the term eunuch, a male, usually, sometimes a female, that works in service of a lord or a king, whatever. It's an Asian and North African custom, maybe done in Western Asia too, which is now called Europe. They used to cut off people's scrotum and penis so they could serve a person. That is not done in America. We don't need that in America. Another unscientific practice was happening in Italy at a time when the Renaissance, when they thought it'd make boys sing higher if they cut off their scrotum and penis. That is unscientific. This was discussed in the 70s when I was a wee tot, maybe knee-high. I remember hearing a conversation that this stuff should not be practiced here. It should even be made illegal because it's unscientific and it is mutilation of the body, the genitalia. It's considered genitalia mutilation, both female and male. So back to the same issue at hand. In my eyes, in my memory, from the court case in the 70s, old City Hall, Toronto, building still exists. It's right there at Trinity Square, Toronto, Bay and Queen Street. LGBT, to the people that were saying that it was being confused to me, means lost girls and boys taken, transported, transient, which means homeless. That's the original meaning from the early 70s, LGBT. That's before the Shoeshine Boy was murdered in 1978 by two males, adults. The Shoeshine Boy was 12 years old, a Portuguese immigrant, murdered in a sex club or a bathhouse at Young and Wellesley. The two people that murdered him after sexually abusing him were told to claim they were gay by a person named George Hipslop. And we're told to say that the term gay means same gendered, and that if they're same gendered gay adults, it means they're not interested with little children. But yet the shoeshine boy was murdered in 1978. You could Google that. You could search that. Toronto, Young and Wellesley, shoeshine boy, 1978. That is common era. The calendar has not changed from those dates because by that time, Canada and the United States was using the same date numbers. So now we have back to 1991. Me and my friends thinking it's Heritage Pride, your heritage, at the first Gay Pride event in Toronto. Because this is unceded or Mississauga territory, Ojibwe territory, mixed in with Mohawk territory and Ottawa territory. That is, we never gave claim to anybody that this is not our land. The treaties still acknowledge that this is our land. So therefore, gay pride should be your pride, your heritage, not same-gendered sexual relationships. People are pulling a fast one over people's eyes with our words and our languages. My older cousin, used to say, gay does not mean what you say in our language. I understand what he means now, but when I was learning this, when he was saying this to me, and I totally forgot this, I was learning English. And in English proper, gay comes from Sanskrit. And it means happy. Nothing else more. East Indians aren't too happy about their word sound, gay, from Sanskrit. 7,000-year history being manipulated by people in North America that are exploiting indigenous Americans with that same sound and word. And our Algic languages, our American languages, gay does not mean what you say. Lesbos was an island, an all-girls school, not co-ed. Female spaces need to be protected for females. Only males that they allow to let in are allowed to let in. That is up to them who they let in. Gay would mean yours. Bisexual? In English? It takes bisexual reproduction for all normal mammals, birds, dogs, cats, and reptiles to reproduce. It means bi to sexual. That means it takes a boy and a girl to meet to have a next generation. We are not asexual like a starfish or a snail, and I have never heard of no trisexual or quadsexual or pansexual or anything. I do know Lord Pan, which is a deity in Greek, is sexual. And I may have seen him. And the odd thing is, Lord Pan may be the same Yah Israel and the same sky god. But I'm telling you for sure, Lord Pan is not Baal, is not Satan, is not the devil. That I do know for sure. I just realized over the weekend that Rage Against the Machine might not just be Rage Against the United States. It might be actually Rage Against the Machine. Like, if humanity doesn't get its act correct, it is possible humanity might go the way of a species in the Orville series that the Kalons came from. If you watch the Orville, there's a series called the Orville. It's sci-fi. there's a species on it called the Kalons, which are synthetic life form. Humanity seems to be headed the way of the Kalon planet, the way it's developing their programmed intelligent machine technology. American indigenous is a term in legal documents from at least Anno Domini's Anno A-N-N-O D-O-M-I-N-I 1611, noting indigenous people looking like me, copper tone in complexion, Copper City, Atlanta. Cop is short for copper, not for police officer. That'd be Poe. When I was in the Navy League Cadets, they used to say that I'm the Prince of Wales. Not the Prince of Welsh. Not the Prince of W-A. Not the Prince of W-A-L-E-S. A nephew of that person might be running around Ontario thinking they're important, influencing people the wrong way, when he should have went back to England in the 1980s. In the Royal Navy, they used to call me the Prince of Wales, W-H-A-L-E-S. How many of you could breathe water through your nose? Like totally. Inhale hard as you can through your nose until you're spitting out water or farting out your ass. Is it just 3% of humanity? Or is it all of humanity? Is it only the Nagas? People that walked in the street in Toronto, balls out this weekend, the spirit world is not on your side. Spirit world, two-spirit, what is that? Something my grandfather talked about when I was a toddler, about 5 or 6 years old, before or after those people got custody of us that shouldn't have had custody of us. Two-spirit person is a person that talks to ghosts, talks to the spirit world. It has nothing to do with sexuality or type of sex you want or type of erotic lifestyle that someone wants. It is possible that a two-spirit person can be male or female, because humans are born male or female. A real two-spirit person, I doubt, is out there promoting sexuality and transgenderism and all of that stuff. Because us real two-spirit people are already sitting back there saying, do they communicate with the spirit world? Do they understand that some of us two-spirit people have freaking had people commit suicide and talk to us when they freaking, after they commit suicide and dead and gone and before they pass on to the freaking next side? Do they realize what they are doing, the damage they are doing as people thinking they are two-spirit when they are actually promoting two-sexed, two-gendered sexuality, nothing about spirituality. The series Star Wars features more two-spiritism than what goes on downtown in Toronto in June. People communicating from beyond, their body not existing anymore. That is the two-spirit world that I know. That is the two-spirit world I was raised and taught about, that I became skeptical about after being bullied by liberals in the late 80s to early 90s after a ski accident and a head injury. My mother was waiting for someone to apologize for years. I'd witnessed my mother and father cry because of a mistranslation that I didn't realize was related to me. People saying that I did something that I didn't do and that I'm certain ways and whatever. Thank you, Tammy Hogan, for explaining that people were spreading rumors about me. Back in 1990, in the pit, where all our cultures were being cancelled, thrown in the pit, us East and West Indians with that sound gay, doesn't mean what you say in your language. I witnessed my mother and father cry, saying, my father saying, why do you have to use our word? Why do you have to use our word for their stupidness, for their stuff? Our word in our language, Ojibwe, he's talking about, because he don't speak Sanskrit, he's not Hindi, he's American Indian. And he's the one that's more Canadian Indian than my mother. And my mom's sisters are more Canadian Indian than my mother. And they're still missing from this continent, 7 of them plus. It seems that the Conservatives tried to adopt a whole country that was part of the British Commonwealth because there's missing Mohawks and Sioux Indians down there. Well, it seemed that the Trudeau family, their whole life, had been trying to be two-faced with Indigenous Americans. Is Trudeau really Canadian from Canada, North America? Or is Trudeau from Canada in Asia, Katarakistan as it's called? It's a serious question. My mom and them, they care about the youth in Asia. They don't care about that thing called euthanize. That's murder. Murder was the case that they gave us back in 1984. The same people, Trudeau's, wanted my mother's dead in the 70s, just like they wanted me dead and my cousins dead. The same person that claims to be my uncle claims he'll kill us all if we report to the police and name him as the predator. So here's this world stuck in this conundrum now. Because a kidnapper that's working for the Nazis and Immortal sex cults wants to keep on claiming to be my uncle when he's not. Over a 50-year period. Where the world in English is a fiction, fantasy from Asia, Fantasia, all of it. That's actually being investigated by people across the sea. And the people that are running this fiction on the world in English, on TV, La La Land, Californication, don't even realize that Interpol had an investigation going on since before I was aware of it. I hope the world understands the New World Order is not meant to help the planet. The way the world is going with the New World Order, it is not helping the planet. Instead of the Sahara turning green the last 40 years, you have them making a system of control and blaming every human for pollution when they force petroleum on us. The farmers used to be easily able to make fuel for their vehicle because diesel is made to run on vegetable oil. But you see, they're trying to make it illegal to run vehicles on vegetable oil. They pushed petroleum for a few years, claiming the world is going to end. All the ice caps going to melt. Within 10 years, they're still there. Now they're trying to do the switch to lithium ion. Lithium ion is not going to be any cleaner than the petroleum. Back 50 years ago, when they shelved all those cars that were looking like 1930s cars and made the jump from time to 1930s to 70s, they said they were going to reuse all those vehicles. But no, they don't. They have them sitting there in junkyards worldwide, just like they have vehicles manufactured over the last few 20 years sitting there parked because they're not selling to people because of the social credit score that's been on ours our whole life. China didn't develop the social credit score. The Dutch East Indian Trade Company developed the social credit score, changed their name, and now run the world. This is why the British Royal Crest has a unicorn on it. The unicorn symbols the worlds of fantasy, fiction, and the actual royal families in duress, held hostage by the trade corporations that have a fantasy world pushing the New World Order. Watch the movie Brave New World. It's on YouTube, available free, to see the kind of world the immortal sex cults are pushing on them. It may very be that Thomas Jefferson became Jeffrey Epstein. It's either Jeffrey Epstein was the model for the coins, or he actually is Thomas Jefferson. Just like it looks like, to me, Pierre Elliott Trudeau looks like John A. McDonald's in some photos, some angles, some photos. The Mandela effect may very, very real. It is possible that I have documents out there that says I was born in 1924, and that 1924 is 1968 Common Era, 56 years ago. But there's people running around 30 years ago, 33 years ago, trying to tell me I was 7,000 years old, and my estranged uncle that I was estranged to was 2,000 years old. I have the AA coin that a good friend's mother kept for me all these years because I took Alcohol Anonymous. I went to Alcoholics Anonymous in the 80s for my relatives because of the mental scar these immortal sex cult influencers put on us, making us believe in traveling through time and that we're a certain age and whatever. My mom used to say me and my dad were senile because of all this abuse and the head injuries we had, until I told my mom who the abuser was, and since that day she stopped saying I was senile because she realized I started having memory recalling who the abuser was in our life. This abuser of ours is the one that made RuPaul drag queen. That's not drag queen. My cousin and uncle, probably between the height of 4'11" and 5'3", compared to me at 5'11". When I was a toddler, when I was half their height, used to drag me, take me along to the automobile drag races. Something called Thursday Night Thunder or Friday Night Thunder, to see automobiles and motorcycles race. I used to be dragged to that. That's the kind of drag race I like. I like automobiles and cars. I only know two genders. There's no proof of the hermaphrodite, as far as I know. It's not well documented. There's been well over 6 billion people born since 1980s. The population of the Earth is at 8 billion. People have passed on and people have been born. So there's been well over 6 billion people born in the last 40 years. I haven't heard of any proof of a hermaphrodite being born. Someone being born with a penis and a vagina at the same time that actually both work. No proof given, but yet people be parading down the street, Young Street, want to sexualize toddlers, want to promote transgenderism, when our agenda as Mayan descent and Viking and American descent that went all the way down to Mexico and knew about astronomy was to teach people about the transit of stars in 1984, the transit method of locating planets. People missed the Venus transit in 2004 and 2012 because some people are pushing a sexualization agenda of youth instead of an education agenda into science. Some people are pushing a sexualization agenda of youth instead of an agenda into sciences. P-O-L-Y, sciences. I went to school and studied poli-sciences. All the schools my parents sent me to, I went to, or I chose to go to, I studied poli-sciences. In the military, cadets, air cadets, and Army Reserve, they teach political science as well as poli-science. I didn't take political science in school. I never paid to go to school for political science. I've only studied engineering. One thing I wanted to be when I was in the Army Reserve, which they told me I'm a liability for because of my rare disability, is a SAR-tech, search and rescue technician. That's after I washed out from being a pilot and an astronaut because I couldn't be an astronaut. I forgot I was disabled again. There's no disabled astronauts yet. I think they're starting to recruit them now. But as back to this thing, I am pro-science. I am pro-fitness. I am not for financial gain like some of these people do. Me being a two-spirit, a real two-spirit that sees through time, sees future events, and can actually see them change at a moment and realize that's what's going on in Men in Black. They're showing that as an example. I do not like the word P-R-O-F-I-T, meaning financial gain. If I was making a dictionary, that word, if I was making a dictionary, my power thing came on, so I paused for a second, that word would not be used. You'd have to say financial gain if you mean financial gain, or bonus. Can't say profit. Can't say profit. No. Profit means prophecy. Actually seeing physical images in the future in your brain while you're in REM sleep. Not you sitting down there and aspiring to make more cash while you're awake. That's what it is in the Bible. That's what it is from the ancient language Greek. That's what it is, should properly be in English. Whenever I say profit, from now on, it means prophecy. And not for financial gain, as in not for profit, means not for financial gain. And should be translated as not for financial gain. It means profit sharing or financial gain sharing. Equity. They call it profit, financial gain, but it's actually work. It is the outcome of work. So it's actually produce. And prophecy is prophecy. English is a fishy language. There's an election race coming up. Are people enthusiastic about that? Are they showing enthusiasm about who they want to vote for? It's a race, so that's enthusiasm. Enthusiastic. But if someone talks about their culture and they want to shut them up, they say you're racist. There's a big difference between cultural discrimination, which definitely is discrimination, and racism. And the media is using that sound race and racism as a hush point instead of letting people talk to say that is discrimination, that is not discrimination. Just like they use the word anti-Semite as a hush up point. Who are really Semites? Was there a DNA test? They say anti-Semite, but no one's doing a DNA test to see who's a Semite. Palestine is Dutch descent words for stone palace. Does it say anywhere in that statement that the people there aren't Semitic? Or aren't Hebrew descent? Or some of them aren't Hebrew at all? Or some of them can't be Christian that are Hebrew descent? Or some of them aren't Muslim that were descended from Isaac? Anywhere in that statement, Palestine, does it say they're not Hebrew or not Hebrew descent or not Semitic? I don't think so. Yes, the ghost is telling me to say a lot of these things. The spirit world wants these things said because people are not smart enough, people are not listening enough, people are not freaking thinking enough in English. English is being used to erode cultural rights. Someone talks about their culture, they say you're racist, instead of them let them talk about their culture when they didn't say anything discriminatory. If they said something discriminatory, they said something that's discriminatory. Did I say anything that was discriminatory against anybody's race, culture, or gender? No. I might have said something that makes people want to think about what they're telling people about their gender. I told my cousin a week before Queen Elizabeth passed on. I don't know if she's sleeping in a chamber away from public eyes or if she's actually fully mortis. But I told my cousin a week before she passed on that she came to visit me. She had me looking at Abuela there at 1140 Mary Street in the middle of the night. And the next week, the day they announced she passed on, I walked down the hall awkwardly, thinking like, what's going on? Got to the elevators, dressed in a certain way, and saying, "Oh, did I pass inspection?" Like, what? No, you're not. You can't. You're supposed to be here in 2024 to see the freaking event. No, I can't hold on for that long. I was like, whatever, okay. I go downstairs in the elevator, listen to my music, do my peace pipe, come back in, put on the TV. Then I hear Queen Elizabeth passed on. The same thing with Prince Philip. There's a day he passed, and I started barking freaking loud in the apartment, yelling all these weird things. The woman that managed the building came down and knocked on my door, and whatever. I didn't realize I was yelling so loud she could hear down the freaking hallway. I'm not able to yell that loud normally because of my Chiari malformation. Ghosts are real, and I was skeptical for years. Spirit talkers are real. The two-spirit world is real. Stop calling yourself two-spirit if you're not freaking two-spirit and you're promoting sexuality to toddlers. You have no idea what you're going to experience when you pass on. My name is Shak Nogi. I was supposed to be laying down most of my life. Same as my mother and my father and then one of my aunts. But it seems people have us marching up and down because they don't want to believe. Whatever. We are forced into a whole bunch of kind of stuff most of our life. Whatever. The people that did it will face what they face when they pass on to the other world. Unless they freaking ask for forgiveness and try to correct the errors of their physical life. I am Shak Nogi. I know someone, I call him Obi-Wan. He's the real Obi-Wan. He even called me Padawan one time. So I guess I am his Padawan. People used to call me, say Luke used the Force. So it appears I did not turn into Darth Vader. I never did turn into no Darth Vader in my life. Take care, much love, bye.